everybody, and welcome back to the Goldbridge Saves Football podcast. We're looking forward to a big weekend and the first cup final of the English season as Liverpool take on Chelsea in the Carabao Cup. We'll also be looking ahead to the Premier League games. We're going to be talking who are the 10 best players in the world at the moment. Lots of people have had their say. We're going to have our say. We've also got Goldbridge. And we've got a special guest on the show. He's not been around for a while. He's severely fallen off. He's doing a video with me next week about why he left the kickoff. Right. That rhymed. Welcome to the show, Loz and Will.
Go on, Loz, after you.
Loz and Will.
Yeah.
No, but we've ruined the intro because I enjoy when you pick up off the back on the podcast. So I was just saying...
He'll only talk about Birmingham.
Podcast. Yeah, you always manage to bring it back to Birmingham.
Yeah, it was a podcast the other day. About 36 minutes it took me, which was a new record. But it's not about Birmingham City, Loz. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On Cup final week as well. Are you excited?
Obviously, I love the cup final weekend in London because you get the Scousers down and everyone gathers in certain places, good atmosphere. Chelsea versus Liverpool, there feels like there's a bit of maybe a 10-year, 15-year ago thing going on there. It's good. And also, I'm a bit nervous because I don't know what our team's going to be. I don't know what their team's going to be. Felt a bit more cut and shut maybe 2 weeks ago, whereas now, less so.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we'll get into this controversy straight away. I was even on TalkSport this morning.
Really?
Gabby Agbonlahor and Alan Brazil tried to take me down a peg or two on this. I stood my ground. You are a Liverpool fan.
Right.
I said, without prompt, Loz, what are your thoughts on this? Erling Haaland doesn't get into the Liverpool team in the last 2 months of this season right now if he went to Liverpool.
Oh, so what you've done there is put a really tight window on it.
See, he's changing it all the time.
That was always the parameter. I said
we didn't say it like that.
I said he doesn't get into this team
on a Wednesday if he's not eating well. You put in more
right
caveats.
Now he doesn't. Well, he doesn't.
I'm inclined to agree. Coming off the back of this, obviously last night Luton were beaten 4-1 by Liverpool. Liverpool didn't really play with a recognised number 9. They played with a false 9 in Cody Gakpo. It was Harvey Elliott and Luis Diaz on the other side doing the overlappy, almost Arsenal type thing. I'm not saying... I agree in the sense that he's good enough to get into the Liverpool team.
He's the best striker in the world.
But your point is he's not as good a quality as those guys. It's that tactically... that we don't play to his strengths and he wouldn't play to ours. He's not that facilitative striker. That's a real word. So, that's why he doesn't get in the team. And it's football simpletons, really, who don't get that.
Yeah, well,
he jumped in straight away, unprompted.
I don't know where I stand in life. It's where Mark puts more and more caveats on things just to sort of dig himself out of this little hole.
I think he's right.
He's not.
But, sorry, so you're saying that if Haaland goes to Liverpool, which is a reasonable...
Klopp would bite your knob off to have Haaland in straight away.
But that's not the point. The point is at this point, Mark's basically making the point that within this season... Liverpool wouldn't just inject Erling Haaland into the side and go, we'll score more goals. Haaland might score more goals, but the real question is, Will, and I think the point that Mark's making on a wider level, Liverpool don't win the league if Haaland's in that side because I think he scores more goals, but Salah doesn't. I don't think Diaz does. I don't think, Curtis Jones. I think there's loads of people who don't get as many goals.
Factually, right?
No, but... What I also think he was doing was downplaying Erling Haaland.
No,
because,
I literally said...
Mark's always had respect for Erling Haaland.
I literally, go back to the clip, I said, he's the best striker in the world.
No,
wow.
No.
Is that not enough praise?
No, but you were doing that. You were doing it again with your caveats in the Manchester City environment, and we were dismissing everything that he did at Dortmund, where his game was completely different.
Dortmund.
And he has got that in his locker, but he's doing it differently there. I think he would be straight in there. See you tomorrow. Shake your hand.
Who?
The comments are going to kick off. Look, get in the comments with who your top 10 best players are in the world, because that's coming in a minute. But look, factually, Erling Haaland this season, he doesn't dribble, he doesn't carry the ball, he doesn't pass, he doesn't win many offensive duels. That doesn't fit with the way that Liverpool want to play.
Will look so stressed out by this.
Anyway, I've got a better one. This is gonna be a
I'll ring Alan Brazil.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm doing here is I'm thinking up in the week things I genuinely believe in that are controversial. Unlike most creators who just say any old shit to get clipped up. Yeah, you could try this, Loz.
Yeah.
It could be your bounce back. But I genuinely believe this. So get ready. Phil Foden doesn't start for Arsenal And I will tell you why he doesn't start for Arsenal.
This is excellent.
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
Where does he start for Arsenal? He doesn't start in Saka's position. He doesn't start in Martinelli's position. And he doesn't start in Odegaard's position. So where does Phil Foden start for Arsenal? And people will be going crazy because he's British and he's a very, very good player. And again, I think Phil Foden is massively improved this season and he stepped into the Kevin De Bruyne hole admirably. That
Wow.
sounds wrong.
Yeah.
But Phil Foden would not start for Arsenal at the moment because you'd have to drop Martinelli, Odegaard or Saka. And the only one who I think is the weakest there is Martinelli. But as a left winger, for the work rate and what he brings balance-wise, I'd rather have Martinelli. I'd rather have Anthony Gordon on the left than Phil Foden. This is the sign again. This is a development on the Haaland one where
It definitely is,
a
yeah.
very good player...
Development's generous,
Yeah,
but I get,
A very good player doesn't necessarily start for another team when the balance is perfect with that team.
What about in lieu of like a Kai Havertz? So say that he was to drop into that space.
It's a lot of work for Declan Rice. I like what you're thinking there, Loz.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Foden...
They could give him double time.
Yeah. If you played him more centrally, then maybe he does a bit more. I'm not sure that plays to all his strengths. I think he is actually really good when he plays with a
He'd
bit
have to
more
do a
whip.
lot more defensive work.
Yeah,
wouldn't
but I wonder whether what you'd actually do is you put Martinelli through the middle, you put Foden out on the left, and that will give you that space. But it doesn't really speak to the point you've made. What you're saying is he doesn't get in over Martinelli right now.
No, but what you've done there,
I think
Loz,
his best... Well, where would you play Foden?
well, I could be
Not
playing.
for Arsenal.
No,
Where's
where'd you
his
play
best
it? Where'd
position?
you play it? Yeah.
Sure. Oh God, no! I could play him off the left, off the centre.
Yep. You could.
Yeah, I like him when he's centrally because those sort of like runs from deep.
So
They're
it's
some of the
Odegaard
best
or
ones.
Foden. That's my point.
But that's where Kai Havertz comes in, is it not? And that's where Foden is the Havertz of...
But what we're trying to do is find a solution. What you're saying there is a very definitive term that Foden wouldn't get in that Arsenal side.
Right. You're finding problems.
But
Yeah.
I like the fact that he could play against ahead of Havertz because I don't rate Havertz. But I don't.
Would he get into the Liverpool team right now?
Foden?
No. Well, would Foden get into the Liverpool team?
I feel like we're
He
in
would
this.
now. You've got no midfielders, have you?
This is like
That's a very good point. Yeah,
a
would
big
he get-
renaissance for Mark. We're going to have the defining moment where he said about Haaland and Liverpool, and then we're going to have a take like this each week. And I'll be sat on a Netflix documentary where it's like, it was just constant every week. It was just something
I'm
different.
going to do one every show,
Would
twice a week.
Nathan Ake start at left back for Liverpool? I don't know. Would that?
He would at the moment.
Would he?
He's better than
Ahead of
Joe
Joe
Gomez.
Gomez.
Joe Gomez is very good, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Nathan Ake is left-footed.
But Joe Gomez has been excellent on the left. Is that all I'm saying?
I'd
think
like
he's-
the balance.
I'd love Joe Gomez to crack on, just for an England perspective.
I think that's patronising to the career that Joe Gomez has had.
No,
but
I'd
fair
like
enough.
him to, like, that-
Joe, if you're listening, I think you've already cracked on. And I
Where's he
think, I think
cracking on?
that,
Who's he cracking on
No,
with?
just be that more consistent. I always think with my Southgate hat on because I absolutely love him, and just be like, right, he should be in that back line as a playing for Liverpool and the career he's had. But I don't know. There's just something where I'd still be a bit.
Is that the thing for Joe Gomez is, I don't know how we've gotten onto Joe Gomez from Mark's take, but the thing with Joe Gomez
lost
is...
interest.
Would
he-
Joe Gomez start for Watford?
No, he would.
Yes.
He would, yeah. To speak to your point,
We'll get back to Kevin Bacon because everything does.
sure, but there's always 2 degrees. I think overall, I don't think he starts, but I think he's part of the phases that Arteta brings into the game. So I think you
He
would
does
be able
love
to...
Man City things.
Sure. But what I mean is Phil Foden will come on at some point and replace either Martinelli or Havertz. So I think it's not as strong overall as the Haaland point, and therefore you're not going to boot camp.
Do you know why it's not strong? I got 4 million views on Twitter for the Haaland one.
You're joking.
I did. That's how good.
You just done a podcast with Loz. We're saying you don't say stupid things for clips.
No, but I didn't. We didn't plan
didn't.
that on purpose.
No.
We just threw it in, and it did
3
really,
weeks
really well.
we've been working on that.
This won't do well because Man City haven't got any bloody fans.
And also, no one cares that much about Phil Foden enough
No.
to die on that
He's
hill.
at the wrong club. That's my point.
People care about Haaland, and I
If
know
Foden
why.
played
but-
for Liverpool and I said Foden doesn't start for Arsenal,
You'd be
boom,
done.
shakalak.
Yeah, you'd be done. Yeah.
That's the
Boom
next
goes
one.
the
Get
dynamite.
that down in case it happens.
Yeah.
Always remember it.
Next week, another Man City player will be slandered.
So
as
would,
Mark
would,
says,
would Phil Foden start for Arsenal?
100% through the middle on
Instead
the
of
left.
Odegaard?
I think they'd make a sacrifice to get Foden in.
you wouldn't want to sacrifice anyone.
Would he start for Arsenal?
In this current iteration, I get your point.
Yeah, thank you very much. I get your point. Thank
You
very
coward.
much. I'll deal with that. Okay, then let's talk about Liverpool then for a moment. We obviously know they've got the Carabao Cup final. Really interested as a Liverpool fan, and we'll give our thoughts as well. How many trophies do you think they're going to win? They're in the Premier League, they've got the Europa League, Carabao Cup, still in the FA Cup. Lots of injuries. How many?
How many do you think we want, and how many would we take?
What do you think is realistic? Because you have got a lot of injuries, yeah. And what would the priorities
maybe 3?
be?
I think the priority should be twofold. Premier League, obviously, we're top of the league at the moment by 4 points. Obviously, with Man City have got game in hand. And also, I just want to send Klopp off on the highest of highs. Europa League is the other one.
They're the hardest two to do, though. As the Thursday Sunday thing, that's the hardest thing. I think actually, if you win those 2, you've got a great chance of winning 3.
Yeah,
I don't think you can win both of those. I think it's tough
because we're already in the Carabao Cup final. You're then tempted to say 3, and then you got Southampton in a week's time, basically. But the reason I want the Europa League is because it's the one that Klopp hasn't won. I want the full set for his managerial time, and I'd even give up the Europa League to win the Premier League. I just think 2 Premier League titles makes him undeniable, I think, as one of the best Premier League managers, probably a Mount Rushmore at that point, which is top 4.
I always think as well I'm quite dismissive of like Liverpool in the Europa League, because we were chatting about it, weren't we? And I was like, I think Europa League, that means Liverpool can rest players, but there's no real fact around that, is it? Because every time you've been in the Europa League, no matter what stage Liverpool are at, Klopp has always gone strong and always wanted to win it, and like a trophy's a trophy, but that there's just something with him, isn't there, in the Europa League, that he's not very dismissive of it at all.
I also just think we depending on schedules and those kind of things, you kind of wanted to get minutes into some of the younger guys' legs. I remember I went with the team to, I can't remember who we played in France. We played someone in France, and it was a good game, but they were super competitive, and we just had a couple of younger guys in, and on the night that meant they got the edge on us. I always just think this Klopp system, you can slot younger people into it or other people who aren't part of it, because it's an easier system to fit than the previously almost tailored to Salah, Firmino, Mane, Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho. You could name the position by the player rather than the position, whereas now you go, the inside right, who's the recognised striker for Liverpool?
Hence, you don't
Erling
have
Haaland.
Haaland starting your team. But I think with that, I think Liverpool will probably win 2, and it might be again where they just win the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, because the Premier League's going to be difficult, and
that's not enough for me.
But no, because this happened a couple of years ago. You were on for the quadruple, didn't you? And you won the 2 cups both on penalties, I think, both against Chelsea. But I think Thursday, Sunday is really difficult, and if you're Klopp and you put your first team out on Thursday, and then there's a Premier League game on a Sunday, you pick up injuries, fatigue, and you always have to play that Europa League game first as well. So I think it's really difficult for them to do that. I don't think they'll win the Europa League.
It depends on the draw, to be honest. Like if we can get other people to take out some of the strong teams, or everyone else will have played one more game. Not everyone else, but a majority of the other teams will have played one more game because they'll have had to go through that qualifying round. I think Liverpool. I think we can at least get to the semis.
Do you think the Jurgen Klopp announcement is a real benefit and like a driver for this last couple of months?
I think whether he'd announced it now or he'd announced at the end of the season, the team probably would have known anyway. So the public knowing is obviously helpful in a sense. I definitely think there was a sense around the club that something was coming to an end at one point, because just from chats I'd had with a few people who were closer to the team than I was, they were sort of saying this feels a bit last dancey. And I always felt like they meant Salah, or I felt like they meant maybe Van Dijk. Turns out ultimately they meant Klopp. And I think for that reason, I think the team already had a sense of what was going on and already knew. Now we know, I think it reframes it, but I don't think it changes much for the team.
No.
Although I've got to admit, I do think there are times where initially we were sort of like, what are you doing? This is like, we're meant to be winning this because Klopp's leaving. So, and that feeling seems to have been worked through now. So I don't feel like it's as much like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they go next. Obviously, Bayern Munich are moving in on the Alonso.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned if Alonso didn't go to Liverpool, because
who would you take if you were Xabi? Would you take Bayern Munich or would you take Liverpool?
He played for Bayern Munich, didn't he?
Yeah, so he played for Bayern.
I think it's a good question, and we can all answer it. I think that Xabi Alonso, you've got my permission.
Yeah.
I think Xabi Alonso would almost be cowardly to take the Bayern Munich job, because it's the easiest job in the world. Only Thomas Tuchel, the most overrated manager in the world, could mess that up.
Nagelsmann didn't have a great time either, but yeah. No, he didn't. And I think, but Bayern Munich are just such an easy club to manage. I get why Harry Kane went there.
And he's managed Leverkusen there, so it would be an easy transition to a much bigger club with much bigger budgets. And if you go to Liverpool, you're taking over Jurgen Klopp, who actually, to be fair, unlike Sir Alex, I was very surprised when Klopp said he was going, because he's just revolutionised that midfield. It's a team that you can take on for the next 2 or 3 years, add a couple of players in, and there's no reason for a drop-off. If he doesn't take the Liverpool job, I would only say that he doesn't feel that he's capable of doing the job at the moment. And Bayern Munich's an easier... I'm not saying it's a smaller job, but it's an easier job.
Do you think there's anything in just him being like, no, I'm just going to stick around where I am? Like, we won the league. We are in the Champions League. We'd be safe enough to say I think they're relatively guaranteed a Champions League spot at this point.
Dangerous, though.
And it's also...
What makes it dangerous? Do you think it's just that then people would see more? Yeah. I just think even if he was to be sacked by Bayer or whatever it is, or he was to leave in another fashion rather than the winning fashion, I still think people are going to go, well, let's roll the ice on Xabi Alonso. He's not in the Gerrard mould or in the Lampard mould or any of those kind of guys. He's got some actual success. Like he's still the only unbeaten manager in Europe at time of recording.
It's also a bit like if he wins a title with Leverkusen, it's a bit like winning a title at Liverpool, isn't it? What Klopp's done in that time period, like no one will ever forget about that. And if he comes to Liverpool and does the same thing, like one title in 5 years for Liverpool would be an amazing achievement just because of Man City's dominance.
Depending on accusations, obviously.
And if he goes to Bayern Munich, like winning 5 out of 6 would probably be seen as a failure. Skin in the game for me, I think if he can take the Liverpool job, it means that Unai Emery will go from Aston Villa to Bayern Munich, which would be absolutely lovely for me.
And then when he gets sacked from the Liverpool job, Birmingham City's managerial job is open and Xabi Alonso becomes Birmingham.
No, I think Tony Mowbray will take us to the Champions League spots, but that's another podcast for another day.
Yeah. That no one would probably listen to.
No, but if you're a Birmingham fan, you're
exactly. Let's
listen to your own pod.
Let's move across nicely, segue into something that's been going on this week. We're going to do some either-ors and about the Premier League and Goldbridge, etc. But don't know whether you saw it. There's been a lot of talk about what's world class. We were talking about Saka on the last show.
Hate this chat.
And
strap yourself in then.
Hate definitional chats.
Well, what's your definition of world class?
What is underrated? What is overrated? I often...
That's next week's pod.
Yeah, a lot of people make good content out of this.
Not content. Make content, yeah. I often think people are just rated.
Yeah.
Right, there's very few people, depending on the space and where you are, but world class is a good way of defining things. I think it has to be for a sustained period. So, for instance, Robbie Savage has never been world class.
No.
Even though he says things like...
he was world class in some of the Villa derbies, I have to say that.
Sure, but he showed qualities that would have led him to be classed as world class. But you've got to show them on a permanent level. Like Zidane is world class. Jude Bellingham is world class.
Yeah.
To pick out just a couple of names, those are clearly Real Madrid players. But, for a sustained period, Kaká was world class. That whole AC Milan team, world class back in 05 to 08 or whatever it was. Ancelotti himself, a world class manager. Is Jordan Henderson world class? I don't think he's ever been world class because I don't think I've seen him play a specific role that felt very specific to him in a specific place for a sustained period. He's been very good.
Jamie Vardy, world class?
No, I think a world-class player is a player, that, like you say, that you would take and put him into most other teams and go, yeah. And I know there's a hypocrisy there. You could have jumped in on about Erling Haaland, but you wouldn't take Jordan Henderson at his best and go, come and play for Real Madrid. That's never going to happen. Interestingly, they had this on the TV this week. I think it was Rio Ferdinand and Keown were talking about it. This was the 10 world-class players they had, the top 10, I suppose.
Two of the most dialed-in names in the game here.
Yeah, but to be honest, I've got one or two reservations. I think my point is it's quite an obvious top 10 because I'd be interested to see if anyone gets missed out.
From two football pundits over the age of 50.
Yeah.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, amazing. Well, this surprised me. This is why it's a good bit of segue content. So, Alisson, Van Dijk, Rodri.
For a minute, I thought they were just naming the Liverpool starting 11, but yeah.
Bellingham.
So far, they're correct.
Bellingham. De Bruyne, Salah, Kane, Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr.
Yeah, and also
no Messi and Ronaldo probably for the first time in a generation.
Messi, you can't be world class in MLS.
But also you have to add into this conversation as well. Martin Keown was like, the only one I'd debate there is Jude Bellingham because Bukayo Saka's been England's player of the year for the last 2 years, and Jude Bellingham hasn't. Well, I'm sorry, he's 20. I mean, he's done a lot, but he's not done that, so you can't hold that against him. And he's probably going to have one of the greatest seasons ever for Real Madrid.
For the greatest club in the world.
And at the most consistent high level ever. So I know Martin Keown is on the rock sometimes, but I mean, that was absolutely fucking mental.
Yeah, and age is not a define. You don't have to hit 24 to be world class.
No, and England Player of the Year also isn't the defining term for world class.
Also, you don't have to put Saka in for Bellingham. You could just put Saka in for someone else on that list.
Yeah,
and
kick the goalie out.
There is, I mean, maybe those two are saying there can only be 10 players in the world who are world class. You can have a period where you go, there are actually 15 or 20 good world class players.
Well, Rio actually had 12, and this is where...
Right. Was that just because he couldn't
understand the 10? But he should have stuck to 10 because he included Kyle Walker and Ederson, which I just completely disagree with.
I disagree on Ederson, and I think Kyle Walker was, but I just wonder if is Kyle Walker angling for a move and he's asked Rio to mention his name on the show? Or
I feel strange about goalkeepers anyway, because
I put Alisson
world class.
You can be a world class goalkeeper, but I wouldn't put you in the world class player conversation.
So is Alisson not in there then for you?
Not for me. No, I think like
Saka.
goalies are great, but like that's a separate conversation.
There was if I was going to a 12, the only two I could really think of.
You were going to a 12.
If I was going to have a 12 world class instead of a 10, the only two I could really think of, and look, get in the chat, I'm sure you're going to have different 10s, was Son and maybe Lautaro Martinez has done very well at Inter over the last couple of years. But Son is a player that I do think is not far off. But I'm pretty happy with that 10 we listed. Yeah. I don't know how I wouldn't do 10, but I don't know who I'd say are the top. Who would you say the top 3 players in the world?
But they also haven't mentioned Declan Rice. Like, Declan Rice is, genuinely, I said this on my own video, Declan Rice is the only player in the Premier League right now to justify spending that money on. He's the only, I don't think I've heard it mentioned once that they spent all that money on him in relation to, they spent that money, is it worth it?
Yeah, very true.
Harry Maguire signed for United, and it was always, is he worth the 80 million? Enzo's constantly got this, well, he signed for a big fee. You never hear the questioning of Declan Rice, because every time he's on the pitch, Arsenal look defensively solid and go forward in a world-class manner. He's changed the movement of the ball in that side. He's changed what they're capable of. I'm not saying Partey wasn't a very decent player, but he wasn't he was world-class for the role they asked him to do. But Declan Rice is genuinely, on a similar level to Bellingham, transcendently world-class, where you could put him in 3 different positions on that field, and he's literally the best player in that position on the field at any one point, even if he's playing Liverpool or City or whoever.
And off the backdrop where they've got him less than for Caicedo, Lavia, Enzo Fernandez, and they've got themselves an absolute steal, really.
No, Declan Rice is one I put in there. I think Konate's on the edge of that conversation. Saliba and Gabriel both on the edge of that conversation. I don't think Martin Odegaard, I think he's a very high performer, but I just think the system doesn't get the world-class nature out of him. I don't think Martinelli's in that conversation, but I think Saka's on the edge of it. Kai Havertz isn't in that conversation just purely because of that. None of the Chelsea team are. None of the Manchester United team are. I think if you're asking who's good at jogging, you might say that the Manchester United team are very good at that.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'll say this to camera because I think this will get a few of the hipsters upset, because I think that there is an obsession with the Premier League not being the best league in the world. But I think it's very hard to be a world-class player outside of the Premier League now, because it is the best league in the world. You've got the Rodris, you've got the Van Dijks, you've got, Declan Rice, like Loz says. And I look at those players that are outside of the Premier League, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham. The quality of those leagues are not of the level consistently that the Premier League is for you to be able to express and display those world-class tendencies. So you end up with these exceptional talents like Bellingham, Mbappe and Vinicius Jr., who are obviously world-class. But the mass is in the Premier League because it is the best league in the world. And it's the best league in the world because it's the most competitive league in the world as well. So when you start mentioning the Declan Rices and the Salibas and people like that, I think you're absolutely spot on. And I think that, it's almost as someone who's slightly older, as all 3 of us are, we're all in our 30s.
We all look it.
We 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you wouldn't be in this position where you were saying 6, 7 players are the best players in the world. And that's testament to what the Premier League is.
Top 10 would be the El Clasico, wouldn't it? From back in the day.
It would be Barcelona, Real Madrid, and even Serie A if you're old enough.
I do think there were a lot of world-class players. I think the systems were further ahead. I think where the tactical innovate, or where it's not tactical innovation, it's where tactical innovation meets finance is where is in the Premier League. And that's where, it's not that Girona aren't playing good football or that Real Madrid aren't playing, they play very good football. It's just that there's not, like you said, there's not the competition, but there's also not the drive. Like Real Madrid really don't have to try as hard as Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool do to get to the top of their league. If Girona are the nearest challenging body to you, that's not the same in competition.
Well, it's like Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, they lost to Porto this week. I think they'll win the home leg, but I would say that Man City, Real Madrid are probably the two favourites I've seen so far, and then it's Arsenal. But Arsenal's big problem will be on a weekend they're playing in a title race that's so competitive, whereas they might come up against a PSG or an Inter Milan who've basically got their domestic league wrapped up in the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Milan have that though, because Milan have genuinely put together a bit of a a juggernaut in terms of what they're doing, and tactically I think Inzaghi's really done a good job there. I just think that's not as indicative of quality. That's more indicative of the system they've got than the actual quality within the side. I'm not putting any of those players down, but it's not the same.
Yeah, definitely. It does get you there, doesn't it?
I just think the Premier League at the moment, I was having this conversation, the Premier League is just so, if the Premier League is Mount Everest, then the next best league in Europe is just a 2-story house. It's a long.
Do you think it's that big of a drop off?
It is a big difference. And what's the second best league in the world?
Probably La Liga. Although actually, I think Serie A.
If you speak to them lads in Saudi, they're saying their league's very good quality.
Really?
So, yeah.
And how much they pay to say that?
Yeah.
Germany have got a good argument right now, just purely because the Alonso taking on Bayern Munich thing, and I try and watch like 2 or 3 of those games a weekend, or catch like 45 minutes. Generally, it's pretty entertaining football. I think it's between Serie A and Germany, isn't it?
Yeah,
because Real Madrid are an entity unto themselves.
I think it was always La Liga for a very, very long period of time, but I think Serie A. I mean, I think Real Madrid are better than anything Serie A's got.
Yeah.
But beyond Real Madrid, I think if you combine the two leagues, Real Madrid would probably win it, and then you've probably got 6 or 7 Italian clubs making up the rest of the 10. So
I get that. And then if you were to put Bayern Munich, put Leverkusen in there, Dortmund probably. So that's actually a great Super League.
Yeah, let's get it booked.
So really, that's
the way
to
take on the Premier League.
Yeah. Genuinely, if you can't take on the Premier League directly with finance, then just make your own league and exhaust yourselves elsewhere.
That might be the plan.
The Championship?
What about it?
Would you add that into there?
No.
That's actually, the thing is with the Championship, so there was that graph that was out last season, by the way.
The graph, Mark, listen to the graph.
The graph said that players that come in from the Bundesliga and players that come up from the Championship perform almost exactly the same in terms of output and, goals and all those kind of things relative to each other. So, sending a player down or sending a player across to Bundesliga, there is a benefit to that.
Look at Bellingham.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look at the Championship this year. Like, Sunderland at home to Newcastle, dreadful. West Brom at home to Wolves, dreadful. I mean, I think the Championship is struggling, as we've seen with Sheffield United and Burnley. The gap. The Premier League is just as Loz says, it's the financial and coaching has just took it beyond La Liga, beyond Serie A, beyond the Championship. The gap's getting bigger.
Sorry, just to cut you off, Loz, I have to do this because Mark was piping up again on a very important issue again last night. Where Luton Town were winning again, obviously against Liverpool for a brief moment. Mark was, it's only Luton Town in that, lower uppercase font. This guy, I've never seen a U-turn like it. He's like the Conservative / Labour government, whichever one you hate the most. He's U-turning on Luton Town, will go down in the...
But Luton have U-turned. Like they weren't very good. I
told you this back in September,
they weren't very
mate.
good before Christmas. I think they're a good watch now. I thought they were a good watch against United. I thought first half against Liverpool, they were a really good watch. They're not like your traditional Championship club that's like slow to the ball and, very pragmatic. They're really,
You said they should have been eradicated from the Premier League.
Energetic.
Eradicated.
Well, they will be, but doesn't mean they're not going to go putting a smile on our face.
They might just
they're
about
willingly going to walk off the cliff.
I'll tell you what, if they do go down, Rob Edwards, a man in demand.
Ross Barkley.
Yeah, he'll get him in.
One of my signings of the season.
Well, Ross Barkley was born in the wrong generation.
Yeah.
I think he was born immediately after Gerrard and Lampard. He came into that generation.
Yeah.
And so everyone went, be like Gerrard and Lampard. And they judged him by that as a metric. If he came through now, people would be going, he's like Foden. He's like Bellingham. He's this kind of player. He's that kind of player. Because look at him. He basically runs the midfield for Luton.
I'm so glad you're here because if I spoke about Ross Barkley for more than 10 seconds, Mark would tell me to shut up and be boring.
That was a swift 10 seconds in which I put all of the great points in. So.
I often think I was born in the wrong country because if I was born in Gibraltar, I'd be an international.
Mate, you would be... and you know what? You're really like the people in Gibraltar.
Why?
Yeah, King and Country. When we got in here, Mark did the national anthem.
Oh yeah,
I have to do it every day.
That's
Yeah.
me. Yeah, that's me.
He took his detective jacket off, and
Yeah.
it
I
was
had
very sweet.
to have a mandatory week off when the Queen died.
Yeah,
I couldn't do anything about it.
yeah. I actually lost his job and then started working there immediately after that. It was terrible.
Yeah. Come on, Sam. Either or's.
Did you say, come on, son? I'm not Seth. Either or, we're looking at Arsenal, Newcastle. Big game, really. Sort of sneaked up on us.
8 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Oh, and I live near Highbury, so that's going to be real bad if I want to late
do you
night.
not? What are you going to do? You go out late night? They're quite an affable crowd at Arsenal, aren't they? What, are you saying that if you saw someone on the street, you want out like a little ruck with an Arsenal fan?
No, I just want a bit of peace and quiet in my flat.
You could go viral. Go and find Robbie. Say, give me the mic. Arteta, rubbish, but we're underachieving. I mean, they're at it on They're at it on Wednesday night. Get a job on Hollyoaks.
They've never got north of the Watford Gap.
I can't bloody understand it.
See that guy who was like, "Oh, we're going to demolish Porto tonight."
They do it on purpose, though.
Yeah.
It's a drop of a. Oh, I hope we don't, and then I'll go viral again. It's just look, Arsenal against Newcastle. I actually think is a really interesting game because Newcastle are so unpredictable. When they went to Villa and won,
Yeah.
they were brilliant that game, and then they don't win at home against Bournemouth. So.
I think Arsenal kill them.
Yeah, I think there's elements of that of just like I think it'll be 3-0 by
I don't know what
half-time.
Newcastle's injury issues
It seems
are.
to change every week. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolute carnage for Goldbridge, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
one week we're picking
Goldbridge.
Wilson and Isaac, and it's like who's fit, who's not.
Well, I
And-
picked Pedro for Brighton this week and he's out for the season.
so
So
there you go.
went
Never
well.
say never.
Yeah.
I haven't picked him though.
No. You
No,
have.
I think I'll go with Oz on that one. I think Arsenal have to win. It's earlier in the season, but Arsenal have to win.
Really
And
good
Newcastle's season sort of drifting. I think they are still in the FA Cup, which is midweek on Tuesday. So actually, their priority is probably that.
Do you think?
FA Cup's their only chance of Europe now, which is terrible for
Especially
Newcastle.
with Newcastle, it's like
Yeah.
such a big thing up there, isn't it? Since they've actually won a trophy and like with that squad, they would have a chance again.
Lost their director of football to United as well.
We've covered
You
that.
love saying that over and over and over again. I
Yeah.
really enjoy your videos where you basically just keep saying they lost Dan Ashworth.
Yeah.
Also, it sounds a bit like a bit of turmoil between. There was Sam from the United Stand reporting it about the turmoil between maybe Eddie Howe and the board and Dan Ashworth.
Didn't
So
sound happy.
it's not all roses there.
No.
I still think Arsenal kill them.
Yeah.
But the main reason behind that is I think Arsenal are frustrated by the Porto thing. Newcastle won't play the same football as Porto, will underestimate Arsenal again, and then they'll just unleash and be extremely angry.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the real tightest game. I mean, Man City go away to Bournemouth at 5:30, but that'll be.
Yeah, I'd love Bournemouth to do something, but again, Man City have to win it. It's at that point of the season where I think it kicks in like it did with Liverpool in the second half against Luton. Start of the season around autumn, that could have ended in a draw, but Klopp's got the players at half time doing the conga, and it's like, let's get out there and that's why Arsenal will probably beat Newcastle, and that's why Man City will beat Bournemouth, because they know you can't. The first one to lose is probably gonna.
Do you
Arsenal-
play fantasy football, Loss?
No, I don't, because I've just got other things that I have to do.
Did you play your triple captain?
Nope.
Good, same here.
Oh,
And you only got one goal.
Yeah, so I think we've done well there, haven't we?
Yeah.
And Liverpool conceded. Sorry.
would have been a week to do it though.
Would have been, yeah,
If
and I
it's-
was going to do it, but I missed the
Are
deadline.
you still saving it?
Still saving it. Not
What
by
a-
choice.
What about the Carabao Cup then?
I don't think I can do fantasy football for the Carabao Cup.
No, who's going to win? You've got to go.
Obviously, I've
Liverpool.
got to say Liverpool.
I think Chelsea are going to win it.
So I think Chelsea are probably going to look at the Liverpool team sheet and go, this is our best opportunity to win it. Because they'll see, I think they'll see a few names coming back, but they will also see that Liverpool, they're depleted, should we put it that way. I would almost rather not rush people back. I'd rather start a back line of Kelleher.
Where was Salah against Luton? Is he injured
He's
again? or
had like
not?
some cramping,
Yeah.
and I think they've just kept him out for that reason. I think Harvey Elliott actually did a really good job in the game. He was probably Liverpool's man of the match, if not one of the top 3 players on the field outside of Endo. So I think the key for me is not so much reading Liverpool in terms of the starting 11 is probably a bit of a useless exercise this season. You need to look at whether Endo's in the team and who are the people who complement him in midfield. If Liverpool win the midfield battle, I think we've got the people who can finish. It's really about which Chelsea turn up.
Yeah, I
unsure.
think I'd go Chelsea will because
Just or like by a margin? or?
I just think that having a week off and they do play better against teams that are better than them, and Liverpool have this tendency to play a high line, which cost them at the Emirates. And I think it just suits Liverpool. Chelsea at the moment, their best players against Man City were Disasi, their defenders, and then Conor Gallagher, and then the break. And I think that sort of will be relevant at Wembley. I can see Liverpool having a lot of possession and Chelsea just hitting on the break. And yeah, I think also the fact that Liverpool are playing a lot of games and they don't have people fit at the moment. So yeah, I just fancy maybe penalties or something. But I think Chelsea. I mean, I'll be probably completely wrong, but I think I'm going to go Chelsea, yeah.
That last Liverpool-Chelsea Carabao Cup final, I'll go down on record as saying the greatest 0-0 of all time. Do you remember there was about 4 disallowed VAR decisions?
I think it was annoying, though. Yeah. I didn't think it was great quality, but I think in terms of like flashpoints, I agree.
I was at the game and I was having to text my mates because obviously VAR in the stadium, you're just absolutely clueless, aren't you?
Yeah.
The
well,
game
not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, the game itself, I'm going to go Liverpool, and I just hope it's not one of them nervy crap finals.
Are you two both going together? Are you going in Mark's box?
To get Mark out of a Carabao Cup final watch along would take some serious money.
Money?
It's
not the money. It's the creative.
Sorry, money and the creative.
I want to be doing the team talk for Chelsea.
Or have a box to do a watch along in.
Live.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you don't do a watch along live inside the stadium. Technically, that's live commentary. But if anyone ever was to do
that, we can do it. Just might be National League level.
Yeah.
At
And he'd never sync to that.
Never say never.
Watch this space.
He'd never sync to that, is what he's...
Right, it's time for Goldbridge. What's the scores on the doors, Will? Because I don't even know what I got last week, and I bet you've not done the research.
Yeah, obviously have, Mark. That's my job. We're out a graphic designer at the moment, so it's very hard. So I'm having to actually listen back to what I've said, which really hurts
Still
me.
a listen. Counts as a listen.
Do it quite a few times. Get it up the
MP3 on his laptop, though. Didn't even download it from Spotify.
Just go on the transcripts and go straight to it. Mark 34, Will 31 was the score going into the week.
Good.
Mark got a point for Ivan Toney, Trossard, and 2 for his good mate Rasmus Højlund.
So I got 4.
You got 4.
That's one of my best weeks.
Steady though, don't get too excited. Martin Odegaard for me, Carlton Morris, old faithful and reliable, Nunes and Saliba. No, I've done that wrong, sorry. I just got 3.
So you still lost.
I give myself a point for Saliba.
Why?
Exactly, good point. So it's Mark 38, me 34. So
it's a big gap, and it's a big forfeit.
So you're saying 4 points is a big gap, seems insurmountable, should probably just give up.
Well, the forfeit's really embarrassing. So,
and it sort of needs Mark to lose. So then but there is also a steward's investigation going on at the moment. We might be bringing you an extra layer to Goldbridge, and the person that's sorting that out has messaged me with a few different sort of ways that the season's panned out, and I might have missed some points, but that's going to an independent review at the moment.
Really?
And we will come back with that later.
Everton.
Wow.
More as we get it.
Your ineptitude is under investigation.
Yes,
is what you're saying. Okay,
exactly,
fair enough.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay, let's go for our 5 goal scorers this week. Do you want to go first because you're losing?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Evan Ferguson to score for Brighton when they take on Everton at home.
Funnily enough, I've stuck with that game and I've gone for Danny Welbeck to score against Everton for Brighton.
The only one I knew was actually United.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a thing going on here. Next for me, we are going across to Bournemouth. Only 10,000 will be there. One of them will be Kevin De Bruyne.
See, he's going for City players.
I don't mind that. Yeah, but it's a bit easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bit easy.
I've gone niche.
Listen to my next one. I'm going to go for Crystal Palace at home to Burnley.
Wow.
Mateta.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't see that coming. That is
why I'm
masterful
winning.
Goldbridge.
This is why I'm winning.
That is brilliant.
This guy came on the podcast last week and he went, I'm going niche. I'm going for Ivan Toney.
Wow.
One of the number 3 for me. I'll save my niche ones just so you think you've won. I'm going to go for Pedro Neto to score for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Sheffield United.
What a return.
I've also gone with a Wolverhampton player.
Yeah.
I've gone with Hwang Hee-chan, who is playing against Sheffield United.
That is brilliant.
No, he always does that loss.
Because I know, but he's popular enough that other people listening to the podcast go, I would have done that too. That's brilliant podcast.
It's just natural.
That's natural.
Here's my
incredible.
niche shout then. Fulham.
Didn't you just say the other one was niche?
No, well, yeah, it gets real niche. Right. Fulham away at Manchester United. I've gone for Rodrigo Muniz.
Who scored about 20 goals in his last 2 games.
Niche.
Oh, it's really niche. Really niche. What are you going to have on Saturday night? An Indian takeaway?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so niche.
Yeah, well, if I have a couple of Pakoras on there, it makes it niche.
I'm going Garnacho.
Oh!
That is quite niche.
That is quite niche.
Don't back him up, Loss.
Super
You
niche.
sat on this side of the
That's
table.
an excellent return from Federer.
Well, I'm going to bloody Crystal Palace, then you tit, and I'm going for Jordan Ayew.
He's made that up.
I'm not.
Counter
Down on my
No,
Google Doc, you can check last edited.
It does say that, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go Arsenal against Newcastle, and I'm going to go Martinelli.
Oh, I love it. I love
no
it.
wonder why
Because
you're
he's
backing
thought
him
about
up.
the setup. That's lovely. That is Goldbridge.
That's gold.
That's beautifully
and it's not
played
over
there,
yet.
boys. Yeah.
Goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper, I've gone really niche this. Young lad plays for Man City, Brazilian called Ederson.
Boring. He needs
That is-
the point.
Yeah.
He needs the point.
To be fair, that's a real banker.
Also, we need you to lose the forfeit because that's where the views are.
Oh, well, I'm going to go. Well, I probably shouldn't have done this because this will be a clean sheet. He's at home to Sheffield United, and his name is Sarr.
Okay, what's your defender?
Dunk.
You love a dunk, don't
Yeah,
you?
I've not had a goal scoring defender yet.
I've gone
I think he
for.
scored last week, didn't he? Or he got an assist.
I've gone really niche, and I've gone for Gabriel. Most deadly from set pieces, Arsenal.
So
Arsenal are
basically,
really
most
good,
of your picks are really obvious.
One.
Yeah, De
Two.
Bruyne,
De Bruyne.
Ederson, Gabriel.
Yeah.
That is very much like, who was the Spanish guy that used to, Rafa Nadal?
Yeah.
Always the obvious shot
Yeah.
and
Wow.
very rarely the finesse on it. More of a Roger Federer.
No,
you don't
yeah.
see it coming.
Mark's more Jamie Murray, if I had to say.
definitely.
Jamie Murray?
Yeah.
He follows me on Twitter.
Oh, we'll get him on.
Do you want to come on, Jamie? You're more than welcome. Tell us some stories about Andy.
Goldbridge shaves tennis.
Yeah,
Jamie, do you have Andy's number?
yeah.
Hi, Jamie. It's Mark. I
Yeah.
just wondered
Or
if you
your
had
mum. Or your mum.
Yeah. Yeah. She, to be fair,
She'd put him in
Ruby
his
or-
face. She'd sort him out.
I don't know what his name is. Her name is, she's got a...
You might date her. She's about the
Amanda.
same age.
That is niche.
I'm
Okay.
married.
Right, yeah. Good point.
Oh, well said.
Anyway, make sure you get your comments in. We've had lots to discuss there. Loz, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I liked commentating your little back and forth between the two. I listen
worked.
to this while I shave.
It worked as a threesome.
Well, you're doing a
It
good
worked.
job of shaving.
Well, you've not seen, but fair enough.
Just as a shout out, next week we've got a video going out on my channel with Loz where he talks about his fall off.
Yeah,
From the
You've
kickoff.
really got to stop doing this. But yeah, I do. Yeah, first time I've trusted anyone to talk about it. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me on the show.
No, I
Good
thought
job.
it's a really good video, so I'm really excited for that to come out next week. And Will,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Anything?
We've got some exciting things out, some more EFL challenges, some more interviews coming up. I'm going to the cup final, but probably just going for fun now. So I'll let you know
going to the
about
cup
it.
final.
We're both going to the cup final. Well, we're both going. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both warranted a brand say, "Come on in.
There
The
you
water's warm."
I'll just piggybacked on you, like I'll probably do for the next.
You two are the sort of scum that I will be calling out on Sunday.
Well, he's a
afternoon.
Liverpool fan.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, but I'll be saying, look at them in the corporate brand bit.
Oh, I don't know if mine are corporate tickets yet. I don't. They
Oh,
might be.
yeah.
There might just be free tickets that
Yeah.
I got from. So is that
Look
okay?
at them doing little vlogs of themselves in the corporate
What's
brand
up, guys?
bit.
It's Will back. You won't believe the starter I'm having today with this lovely three-course
They don't know
meal.
what it's like to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and
I
travel.
do. To get across to Wembley from East London is a long way. The thing is, the problem for me is I'm going to be in the Chelsea bit, I think.
Oh, don't shout that out loud.
I
I might have
know.
to cut your hair.
But you won't
No,
go.
well-
You won't go in a kit anyway.
Wrap it all up, put it under a hat. No one knows who I am anymore because it fell off. So,
I was going to say no one's going to know you're a Liverpool fan anyway.
yeah, exactly. It's not a big problem.
They'll just think you're from.
They'll go, is that
London.
Rory? And I'll go, who's that? And then just, no problem.
Lovely stuff. Great content. Make sure you give us a follow and get your comments in. Lots to get in on there. Phil Foden doesn't start for Arsenal and world-class players and lots of other stuff. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I was talking to you.
Speak to you later.